Hi, and welcome to English Channel. Are you learning English? Great. Let's learn English with a very interesting story. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. Let's get started.
1. Introduction. Have you ever wondered how a thick, black liquid can change the world? It looks dirty and sticky, but it can build cities and start wars. Long ago, ancient people saw fire coming out of the ground. They believed it was a gift from the gods. The flames burned without wood, and no one understood why. They did not know this strange liquid was oil. It was like a time capsule from the past. Inside, it was energy from the sun, saved for millions of years. One day, humans would discover its power, and everything would change forever. 2. The silent creation from ancient sunlight. The story of oil began long before humans walked on Earth. Millions of years ago, tiny sea animals and small plants lived in warm oceans. When they died, their bodies slowly sank to the bottom of the sea. Layer after layer, these remains covered the ocean floor. Over time, sand and mud buried them deeper and deeper. The Earth slowly pressed down on these layers with great force. As millions of years passed, heat and pressure increased under the ground. The remains of these tiny living things began to change. They did not stay the same. Instead, they slowly turned into a thick, dark liquid. This liquid was oil. It was made from ancient life and stored deep inside the earth. This process was very slow and quiet. No one could see it happening. Oil is like old sunlight. Long ago, plants used sunlight to grow. That energy stayed inside them. When these plants and sea animals died, the energy did not disappear. It stayed trapped inside the earth. Over a very long time, it changed into oil. This is why we call it fossil fuel. It is energy from the past, saved for the future. People did not know about this process for many years. They only saw oil when it came out of the ground naturally. Sometimes, it appeared on the surface of the earth. It looked strange and smelled strong, but slowly, people began to find ways to use it in their daily lives. 3. Early uses. From boat glue to bamboo wells. Before modern industry, people already used oil in simple ways. In ancient Mesopotamia, the Sumerians used a thick form of oil called bitumen. They used it to build strong walls and protect their buildings. It also helped make boats waterproof, so they could travel safely on rivers. In ancient Egypt, people used oil in special rituals. They used it in the process of mummification. This helped preserve the bodies of the dead for a long time. Oil became an important part of their culture and beliefs. In North America, native people also found oil on the ground. They used it as a kind of natural medicine. They believed it could help heal wounds and treat sickness. Even though they did not fully understand it, they knew it was useful. One of the most interesting early uses of oil came from China. Around the 4th century, Chinese workers developed a clever method to reach oil and gas underground. They used long bamboo tubes to drill deep into the earth. Some wells reached depths of about 240 meters. This was an amazing achievement for that time. They used the gas and oil they found to help produce salt. This was very important for food and daily life. These early drilling methods showed that humans were beginning to understand how to reach resources hidden underground. Even without modern machines, people found creative ways to use oil. Step by step, they learned more about this mysterious substance. What started as a strange liquid on the ground slowly became something valuable. This was only the beginning of a much bigger story that would change the world. 4. The rescue of whales from the earth. In the middle of the 19th century, the world faced a serious problem. People needed light at night, but there was no electricity yet. The most common source of light was whale oil. This oil came from large whales in the ocean. It burned well and gave a bright, steady flame. Because of this, people hunted whales in great numbers. As time passed, whales became harder to find. Ships had to travel farther into the ocean. Hunting became more dangerous and more expensive. The price of whale oil rose very high. Many families could not afford it anymore. Cities were growing, and the demand for light was increasing every year. People needed a better and cheaper solution. In 1846, a man named Abraham Gessner found a new way to make fuel for light. He was a geologist who studied rocks and natural materials. He discovered that he could heat crude oil and turn it into a cleaner fuel. This fuel was called kerosene. It burned brighter than whale oil and produced less smoke. Most importantly, it was much cheaper. Kerosene quickly became popular. Lamps using kerosene spread across cities and towns. People no longer depended on whale oil for light. As a result, the demand for whale hunting began to fall. Fewer ships went out to hunt whales, and the number of whales slowly recovered. This change was very important. Without knowing it, humans had helped save whales from possible extinction. A new fuel from the ground replaced the old fuel from the sea. It was one of the first times in history that a natural resource was replaced in such a big way. This moment showed how new ideas and discoveries could change both human life and the natural world. 5. The birth of the modern oil industry, 1859. A few years later, another important event changed the history of oil forever. In 1859, a man named Edwin Drake made a bold attempt to find oil underground. He worked in a small town called Titusville in Pennsylvania, United States. At that time, many people did not believe oil could be taken from deep inside the earth. Drake used a steam-powered machine to drill into the ground. This was a new and risky idea. Many people laughed at him and called his project a failure before it even began. But Drake did not give up. Day after day, he continued drilling deeper into the earth. Finally, at a depth of about 21 meters, something amazing happened. Dark oil suddenly rose to the surface. It was the first successful oil well in history. Drake had proven that oil could be extracted from underground in a controlled way. This discovery changed everything. News of the oil well spread quickly. People rushed to find oil in other places. This event started the first black gold rush. Oil became very valuable, and many people wanted to be part of this new industry. The success of Edwin Drake marked the true beginning of the modern oil industry. What was once a strange liquid on the ground had now become a powerful economic resource. From that moment on, oil would play a major role in shaping industries, economies, and the future of the world. 6. The Standard Oil Empire and Rockefeller's control. After the first oil boom, the oil industry grew very fast. Many small companies tried to make money from oil. The market was full of competition, confusion, and risk. Prices went up and down quickly. Some people became rich, while others lost everything. In this chaotic situation, one man saw a great opportunity. His name was John D. Rockefeller. Rockefeller was a smart and careful businessman. He believed in control, order, and efficiency. In 1870, he started a company called Standard Oil. At first, it was just one company among many. But Rockefeller had a clear plan. He wanted to control the entire oil business, especially the refining process. He began to buy other companies or force them to join him. Sometimes he offered good deals. Other times, he used strong pressure. He also made secret agreements with railroad companies to get lower transport prices. This gave him a big advantage over his competitors. Slowly, more and more companies became part of Standard Oil. Within a short time, Standard Oil controlled about 90% of oil refining in the United States. It became a huge monopoly. People often described it as a giant octopus, with long arms reaching into every part of the industry. It controlled prices, production, and distribution. Some people admired Rockefeller's success. They saw him as a genius who brought order to a messy industry. Others criticized him. They believed his power was too great and unfair. Small companies could not compete with him. The government began to worry about this level of control. Finally, in 1911, the United States Supreme Court made an important decision. It ordered Standard Oil to break into smaller companies. This ended Rockefeller's monopoly. Even so, his influence on the oil industry remained strong. Many of the smaller companies continued to grow and became major oil companies later. Rockefeller's story showed how powerful oil had become. It was no longer just a resource. It was the center of a huge business empire that could shape the economy of a nation. 7. The shift to the age of transportation. At the beginning of the 20th century, another big change happened. A new invention began to transform the world. This invention was the internal combustion engine. It used fuel to create movement and power machines. At first, gasoline was not important. It was a byproduct of oil refining. People often threw it away or dumped it into rivers. It had little value compared to kerosene, which was still used for lighting. But everything changed with the rise of the automobile. One of the most important cars was the Model T, created by Henry Ford. This car was simple, strong, and affordable. For the first time, many ordinary people could own a car. Cars needed gasoline to run. As more people bought cars, the demand for gasoline grew quickly. What was once a useless byproduct became the most valuable part of oil. Gasoline became the main fuel for transportation. The number of gas stations increased rapidly. In the United States, there were about 12,000 gas stations in 1921. By 1929, the number had grown to more than 140,000. Roads expanded, cities changed, and people began to travel more easily. Society slowly became dependent on oil. Transportation, trade, and daily life all relied on gasoline. This shift marked the beginning of a new era. Oil was no longer just for light. It was now the energy that moved the world. This moment was a turning point in history. Oil became essential for modern life. From this time on, the future of transportation and industry would be closely connected to this powerful resource. 8. Oil. The blood of the world wars. In the early 20th century, oil became more than a simple product. It became a powerful weapon. During the two world wars, countries understood that oil was essential for victory. Armies, ships, and airplanes all needed fuel to move and fight. Without oil, even the strongest army could not continue. Before this time, many ships used coal for energy. Coal was heavy and slow to use. Then, a British leader named Winston Churchill made an important decision. He changed the British Navy from coal to oil. Oil made ships faster and more efficient. They could travel longer distances without stopping. This gave Britain a strong advantage at sea. As the wars continued, oil became even more important. Tanks rolled across land, powered by fuel. Airplanes flew across the sky, using gasoline. Trucks carried soldiers and supplies to the front lines. Every part of modern war depended on oil. People began to say that victory moved on waves of oil. This meant that the side with more oil had a better chance to win. Countries fought not only for land, but also for oil resources. Control of oil fields became a key goal. Regions like the Middle East and the Caucasus became very important. These areas had large amounts of oil underground. Powerful nations wanted to control them. Battles and strategies often focused on these regions. Oil shaped military plans and political decisions. The wars ended, but the importance of oil did not disappear. Instead, it became even stronger. Countries now understood that oil was not just energy. It was the lifeblood of modern industry, transportation, and military power. It influenced borders, alliances, and global politics in ways never seen before. 9. The Seven Sisters and the rise of OPEC. After World War II, the global oil industry entered a new phase. A small group of powerful companies controlled most of the world's oil. These companies were known as the Seven Sisters. They were large Western oil companies that worked closely together. The Seven Sisters controlled oil production, prices, and distribution across many countries. They made agreements with oil-producing nations, but often kept most of the profits. Many countries felt that they were not receiving fair value for their natural resources. At first, these countries had little power. They depended on foreign companies to extract and sell their oil. But over time, they began to realize the true value of their resources. They wanted more control and a larger share of the profits. In 1960, 5 major oil-producing countries decided to take action. They created a new organization called OPEC, which stands for the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries. The founding members were Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, and Venezuela. The goal of OPEC was simple but powerful. They wanted to work together to control oil production and prices. By acting as a group, they could have more influence in the global market. They also wanted to protect their national resources from foreign control. OPEC slowly grew stronger. More countries joined the organization. Together, they held a large part of the world's oil supply. This gave them the power to influence global prices and policies. The rise of OPEC marked a major shift in the oil industry. Power moved from private companies to national governments. Oil was no longer controlled only by corporations. It became a tool of national strategy and international politics. This change showed once again how important oil had become. It was not just a fuel for machines. It was a force that could shape the world economy and the balance of power between nations. 10. The 1973 crisis. Oil as a political weapon. In 1973, the world faced a shocking event. For the first time, oil was used as a true political weapon. Several Arab countries decided to stop selling oil to nations that supported Israel. This action was called an oil embargo. It changed the global economy in a very short time. Before this, many countries depended heavily on oil from the Middle East. When the supply suddenly dropped, Panic spread quickly. Oil prices rose fast. In just a few weeks, the price became 4 times higher than before. This sudden increase affected everything. In many countries, people waited in long lines at gas stations. Some stations ran out of fuel completely. Drivers could not buy gasoline for their cars. Factories slowed down or stopped working. Transportation became more difficult and expensive. The crisis did not only affect daily life, it also hurt the global economy. Prices of goods increased, and many businesses struggled. Countries realized how dangerous it was to depend on a single source of energy. Oil was no longer just a product. It was a powerful tool that could control economies and influence politics. As a result, industrial countries began to take action. They created the International Energy Agency, or IEA, to work together and protect their energy supply. They also started to look for new sources of energy. Some invested in nuclear power, while others explored renewable energy like wind and solar. The 1973 crisis was a turning point. It showed that oil could be used not only for economic gain, but also for political power. From that moment, countries became more careful about energy security and planning for the future. 11. The Shale Revolution and rising oil prices in a time of conflict. In the 21st century, a new chapter in the story of oil began. New technology allowed people to reach oil that was once impossible to extract. 2 important methods made this possible. They were hydraulic fracturing, also called fracking, and horizontal drilling. These technologies helped unlock oil trapped inside rock formations. This type of oil is known as shale oil. The United States became a leader in this new energy revolution. Oil production increased quickly, and the country reduced its dependence on foreign oil. For a time, it seemed like a great success. More oil meant more energy and lower prices. However, this also created a new problem. The world began to produce too much oil. Supply became greater than demand. In 2020, something very unusual happened. The COVID-19 pandemic spread across the world. People stayed at home, and travel almost stopped. Cars were not used, planes did not fly, and factories slowed down. As a result, the demand for oil dropped sharply. At the same time, oil producers continued to pump oil. Storage tanks quickly filled up. There was too much oil, and nowhere to keep it. Then came a historic moment. For the first time ever, oil prices became negative. Sellers had to pay buyers to take oil away. After the pandemic, the oil market recovered as demand returned, but the world did not become stable. In recent years, conflicts in key oil regions, especially in the Middle East, have disrupted supply. Oil routes became less secure, and production in some areas was affected. Because of this, oil prices have increased again. In 2026, rising tensions and ongoing conflicts continue to push prices higher. When supply is at risk, markets react quickly. Fuel becomes more expensive, and this affects transportation, goods, and daily life around the world. This situation shows a clear pattern. Oil is not only an energy source, but also a powerful factor in global politics. The shale revolution gave the world more supply, but conflicts remind us that oil is still unstable. Today, oil remains both a strength and a risk. It supports modern life, but it can also create uncertainty in times of crisis. 12 lessons from dependence to future responsibility. Looking back at the 5,000-year journey of oil, we can see a powerful lesson. Oil has helped build modern civilization. It brought light to cities, powered machines, and even helped save whales in the past. However, it also created serious problems. Pollution and climate change are now major challenges for the world. This is the paradox of dependence. We rely on oil, but it also harms our planet. We cannot ignore its impact anymore. There is a famous idea. The Stone Age did not end because people ran out of stones. In the same way, the oil age may not end because we run out of oil. The future depends on human creativity. We must find cleaner and safer energy sources. This is our responsibility for the next generations.